Donkey Kong Bonanza released on the Nintendo Switch 2 at last. And after unpeeling this adventure, I gotta talk about how sweet it is. I'm a huge fan of DK and was more than hyped when this game was announced. But it honestly still smashed through my expectations for it. Now, let's dive straight into the core of the discussion. DK left the lush tropics of the jungle and took up mining over at Ingot Isle in search of Bananium gems. But then a machine, Dirt Pile as it's dubbed, goes and causes a mess of everything, digging straight through the earth and dragging DK along with it. You meet up with an odd rock, appropriately named as such, and team up as an epic duo to chase after the villains behind the chaos and return to the surface. Or in DK's case, grab as many bananas as primately possible. You have to dig through sublayers of the planet, all of which are like unique worlds themselves, to progress through the game. Every so often you'll come across different critters living on various sublayers, who all have an elder as DJ. Yeah, things get real funky. And if you find their ancient record pieces, slap them on a giant turntable, you can learn some awesome Bonanza abilities, but more on those later. Before you unlock the first one, Odd Rock is actually revealed to be the young Pauline. You're directed to try and reach the Banandium root at the planet core, as it has the power to grant wishes. And with that, the adventure takes off. Firstly, great setup. Along with the critters I mentioned, you can find the all-new Fractones in this game. There's some silly little regenerative rock guys, and I absolutely love them. They feel very Rareware if you know what that is. And I didn't even get to mention the villains yet. And they are actually cool. Like, who really cared about the Tikis from Donkey Kong Country Returns? I mean, they were okay, but, I'm not even gonna talk about the villains from Tropical Freeze. Sorry if you're a fan of those guys. But this time around, we got Void Company. 3 Kongs in charge of an evil mining operation, using their big contraption to reach the planet core for their own nefarious purposes. Yes, this is the dirt pile mentioned earlier. The leader of this bunch is Void Kong. He's an absolute gremlin, and up to no good at literally all times. Then there's Grumpy Kong, who's the head engineer that builds up their entire army, and Poppy Kong, who's an informant that gathers intel for them. Void Kong's controller to command their mechanical army is even shaped like a banana. The boss fights with these Kongs are super cool. Void Kong just floats around in his little gizmo. Grumpy Kong busts out his inventions to crush you. And Poppy Kong uses perfume that turns her invisible. Their designs, dynamics, and overall presentation are spot on. It's the first time since the Kremlings way back in the original Donkey Kong Country trilogy from the SNES that I felt the villains actually stood out in a DK game, or even recent Mario games. Looking at you, Broodals. Speaking of Super Mario, this game was developed by the same team that made Odyssey. I'm a big fan of that game, and I picked up on some similarities between the two. This is a very fresh experience though, and DK controls completely differently to Mario. Lots of punching, wall climbing, grabbing off chunks of terrain and using them to swing, throw, or turf surf, along with other monkey business. It's worth noting that the power of the Switch 2 was completely necessary for this to run in my opinion, contrary to what I've heard some claim. At a couple points I did experience some frame rate drops, even with the higher performance of this console, so I can't deny it momentarily chugged. It always caught itself though, and it was only during times with an absolutely crazy amount of debris flying all over the place. Since guess what? The environments are totally destructible. At least, almost totally. It works great, and I could literally just bash and smash through rubble for hours. They even added an option you can select from the menu that allows you to reset the terrain just in case. Yes, I did need to use that a couple times. Don't ask how. You can find the main type of collectible, Bananium gems, along with fossils, gold, and other goodies hidden just about everywhere. It was actually a lot of fun searching for them. They do hand you some, but many are extremely well hidden, and I had to spend lots of time figuring out how to reach them or where to look. Honestly, there's just so many ways to get Banandium gems, I can't cover them all in this video. I was never bored though, I'll tell you that. It feels a bit reminiscent of the good old collectathons of the past. You can actually exchange the fossils found in each layer for unique cosmetics for DK. be it ties, breeches, or even fur colors, along with outfits for Pauline. I know it seems small, but I love character customization in games. To talk more about the sublayers themselves, each level you need to find tunnels that let you dive deeper in. Each sublayer felt unique, and the themes for them were excellent, be it poisonous jungles, tropical beaches, fire and ice lands, a realm with a synthetic sun and glowing caverns of crystal, an amusement park with a giant burger and terrain inspired by fast food, and you can actually eat that burger. Every sublayer has its own mechanics, and it kept the experience feeling ripe for the picking. Now, in terms of quality of life features in this game, they've put a lot of consideration into it to prevent it from getting frustrating. For instance, you can randomly find treasure chests buried underground, which can contain gold, items, or even maps that mark the locations of the collectibles on your map. And yes, the map is great and actually usable. It's a 3D map, so considering how free roaming and deep these layers go, it makes traversal a lot easier. I can get distracted whilst gaming and find myself lost often, but that wasn't too much of a problem for me here. There's even a skill tree in this game, and after every 5 Banandium gems you find, you get a skill point. These can be used to upgrade your normal abilities, like punch strength. There's also upgrades for the Bonanzas. Oh, I should mention those, right? After all, they are the namesake of the game. With Pauline singing and DK's chest-pounding beat, you can drum up some epic transformations with unique abilities. The Kong Bonanza, pack a massive punch. The Zebra Bonanza, run extra fast. The Ostrich Bonanza, flutter and glide. The Elephant Bonanza, inhale terrain and spit it out. And lastly, the Snake Bonanza, jump super high. Surprisingly, each of these adds to the game in their own way, and none ever feel especially underutilized, even if some are more versatile than others. To activate one of these, your Banan Energy meter has to be full, and you can refill it by collecting gold. Then once the Bonanza starts, it'll be active until the timer runs out. I had a lot of fun swapping between the different transformations. It really scratched the itch I had for something akin to the Animal Buddies from Donkey Kong Country. I noticed that you can actually compare the Bonanzas to some of the old buddies, like Espresso the Ostrich, Ellie the Elephant, and Rattly the Snake. While this game does have voice acting, only Pauline speaks proper English. I actually think this was a great decision because it makes the world feel more immersive and in line with the character's prior appearances. The soundtrack in this game absolutely slaps bongos, by the way, and each Bonanza has its own theme. Let me tell you, they are a vibe. Those elders weren't joking when they said they're DJs. Now that I went through a rough overview of the game and my thoughts on it, let's get into the end game. And yes, this means there's gonna be some spoilers, and I mean big ones. So if you need to swing on out of here, now's the time. At some point, Poppy and Grumpy decide to peace out of Voidco. Sorry, Void Kong, you never got the chance to fire them. And you have to chase after that fiend yourself. After catching up to him and commencing battle, he attempts to reach the Banandium route and have his wish granted, but gets O-Code One Punch style from King K. Rool's claw instead. Yes, the thick, scaly hide of everybody's favorite villainous Croc is back, along with his whole Kremling crew. The ending of this game is incredible. I was blown away by the homage it paid to Donkey Kong Country and the series as a whole, including other nods and references sprinkled throughout the rest of my playthrough. It all came together by the end and left me reminiscing of my time spent with the originals. Somehow this game felt more country than Returns ever did. I teared up a bit, and those weren't crocodile tears. Saying that, it still managed to feel like something that stands on its own monkey paws. So while new players would still have fun with this, I think longtime fans of DK, like me, are the ones who will appreciate all the details that went into it. Earlier into my playthrough, I had some concerns the bosses were all gonna be way too easy. But by reaching the end, I can say this game provided a pleasantly surprising degree of challenge for something released nowadays. I decided to avoid upgrading my heart, so I had the default 3. If you're a seasoned veteran of the series, it's a good option. Saying that, regardless of health, there's some tricky platforming in the final segment especially. It felt super cinematic, but not in a way where it chucks the gameplay to the sidelines in favor of it. The final confrontation with King K. Rool was divided into 3 phases. The first being a more traditional boss fight, ending with the classic "The End?" Kremling fake-out credits spelt with a K. It's followed by a chase scene while you're blasting up to the planet's surface. And after scrambling through and overtaking New Donk City, there's a grand showdown in an arena where he has his own equivalent to the Bonanza abilities. But he drums his belly to transform. He transforms into the King of Rot, and using his newfound powers, gets straight down to business, which is pummeling DK. It's an intense fight, and his personality really shines through here. A lot of his old moves are back, but with some new flair. While the battle's ongoing, he ends up covering the whole stage in this sloppy, sludgy, lava-like banana mush, and if you touch it, it hurts. But if you throw gold at it, it turns into gold, so the arena is just a constant back and forth between the elements. He has a boatload of other attacks too. You're probably seeing some of them in the footage. It's just absolutely bananas, really. I thoroughly enjoyed the fight, and I can't wait to beat him up again on a subsequent playthrough. Upon his defeat, the end was actually bittersweet, with DK taking off in search of bananas and Pauline staying in the city to pursue her singing career. Don't worry though, there's post-game content, so of course they meet up again. You know how it goes. In conclusion, as much as I was super excited for this to release, I had some reservations about how well they could pull it off. I tend to be pretty critical of games, but any of the complaints I had about this one were kinda overtaken by the amount of fun I had playing it, and that's what's important in my opinion. This game gets a golden seal of approval from me. If you played it yourself, what are your thoughts on it? Drop them down in the comments below. Well, time to banana split. Catch you all next time.